So I haven't talked about The View in a while because, quite frankly, every time I talk about them, I have indigestion for a few hours after I finish the video. But I saw this episode of The View, or parts of it, and I had to talk about it because, in my opinion, Sunny Hostin is probably one of the most unlikable people on TV. Not only is she arrogant, but she berates her own co-hosts, talks over everyone, and has to get her point across because, after all, she's a genius. She's an expert on everything, and she has to have the last word no matter what.
He's special, but what scares me, Alyssa, is that you are incapable of defending a man that you worked for, that you know
not,
of.
Oh, no. Why don't you ask me a question rather than...
I
did ask you a question.
She did.
I had a point I wanted to make.
And you said that you needed to hear more from him. And I don't need to hear more from Pence for several reasons. Because when I lived in
Indy... Well, you just accused me of something, so why don't you let me actually answer? You're not going to vote for a Republican ever.
No, I'm gonna finish what I'm gonna say. The thing about Pence here is that when I lived in Indiana and I went to Notre Dame, he had a terrible approval rating because of the way he treated the AIDS crisis. Awful. A lot of people died because of him. A lot of people died because of how he handled the COVID crisis. You
defended Cornel West yesterday, who would destroy our countries, though.
He also was a parrot for Trump.
Don't make this personal. Let's hear.
He spearheaded the Trump.
Sunny likes to make it personal with me, so we'll just... Are you going to give me a chance to answer?
Speaking the truth. Spearheading Trump's COVID-19 agenda of downplaying the virus.
Well, this is not what the show is about. This is Barbara Walters' legacy. Let a woman speak. It's everybody's view. No, it's Sunny Hostin's view.
And Pence did not quarantine. Pence did not quarantine himself.
You said, why would someone vote for him?
Are you just going to keep going, or am I going to get the
Yes, because I'm not finished.
Answer my question.
So like Alyssa Farah said, Barbara Walters is probably rolling over in her grave listening to Sunny Hostin. That show was Barbara Walters' legacy. She started it. She made it what it was until all these progressives took over and started bashing conservatives every chance they got. This time around, Hostin has to talk about Mike Pence because, after all, Mike Pence jumped into the presidential race. Why, I don't know, but he did. So she gave Trump a break for a minute and she had to talk about Pence. And Alyssa's trying to talk and Sonny's like, no, I'm going to talk. I'm going to get my point across. And you heard her say, when she lived in Indiana and went to Notre Dame, because everybody has to know that, Mike Pence had bad approval ratings when he was governor. He was governor from 2012 to 2016. Bad approval ratings. Has anyone, including them, seen the approval ratings of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris? Talk about bad. But she goes on to say that Mike Pence is to blame for so many deaths because of the AIDS crisis. Yeah, because Mike Pence was the one who brought AIDS to Indiana, and he spread it throughout the state, and he didn't do anything about it. That's just another way for Hostin to say, I don't like him, he's bad, we need to get rid of Mike Pence. Okay, the AIDS epidemic, really? Then, of course, he was responsible for God knows how many COVID deaths when he was the vice president. How Mike Pence was responsible for that, I have no idea. But again, Sunny Hostin's a genius, so she's probably right after all. But if you could see her when Alyssa Farah is trying to talk, she insisted on talking over her, basically hushing her and saying, how dare you speak while I'm speaking. That's what kind of person Sunny Hostin is. She is an arrogant, left-wing progressive who thinks the Democratic Party is saving all of the United States and that everything the White House is doing is smelling like roses, when we all know that's not the case. but she will never, along with Big Red and Whoopi, they will never admit the truth that this administration is a complete and utter failure. Now, Mike Pence, he doesn't have a chance, in my opinion, to be president. But so what if he entered the race? There's so many people in it now. There's Trump, there's DeSantis, there's Haley, there's Chris Christie, now there's Pence. Who's going to be the nominee? No one knows. Trump is the leader, after all, right now. Could he be? Possibly. But as you also know, this administration and the DOJ are doing everything in their power to put Trump in prison long before the 2024 presidential election. He was just indicted for the second time the other day. But I'm not going to talk about that because this is only about Sunny Hostin and her arrogance and her disrespect for her co-hosts. I don't know how the producers of that show can even sleep at night, knowing the way she treats people, seeing the way she bashes every conservative who is in the political realm. Every politician who's a conservative, Sunny Hostin has something bad to say, and she claims to know it all. Again, she went to Notre Dame, so she's a superstar. That show needs to be removed from television because although they claim they're doing such a wonderful job and they're educating people and letting them really know what's happening in our country, all they are doing is pushing the Democratic political agenda every chance they get. They will praise Joe Biden every chance they get. And they're making a lot of money doing it. And everything they say, they never get in trouble for it. If you're a conservative political commentator and you said half the stuff that these women say, you would be probably banned from television. But for some reason, The View is uncancelable. You cannot get rid of these women because someone is paying producers, the network, to keep them on TV, to push the Democratic agenda as far as they can possibly push it. In my view, The View is nothing more than a DNC-powered television show that tries to turn people over to the Democratic Party and make people like me believe everything they say. And I don't believe a word that they say. They lie, they bash, they argue, they have conservative guests on the show and they try to make them look bad, and in turn the guests ends up making the View hosts look bad, which is a wonderful thing. They did it to Sununu, the governor of New Hampshire. They did it to Tim Scott recently. They tried to turn the tables on them to make them look bad, and they were like, oh, no. I'm going to tell you my point. And they all sat there like, oh, now what do we say? That show is a disgrace. And Sunny Hostin, again, is probably one of the most unlikable people on TV. She thinks she knows it all. I don't care how educated she is. I don't care what her background is. She's nothing more than a mouthpiece for the DNC. And that's all her and the rest of those windbags will ever be. So if you watch that show, good for you. But maybe you should start watching something else because they are pushing a Democratic agenda that is not, in my opinion, good for this country. It's getting worse and worse every day, and we just need to turn it around and make America the best country in the world again. And those women certainly do not want to do that. And that's it. So thanks for tuning in. If you haven't liked this video, hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, and hit that notification bell. Share this video with someone. I'd appreciate that. Hope everybody's healthy and safe, and I'll see you real soon.